Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Oh, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on a thankful Thursday here, wherever and however you may be watching. We are live coast to coast with you on Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms known to man. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show. Glad you can all join us here up on a Thursday night because we've got a special treat for all of you guys. Ashley, 305 Sports Babe, is going to be joining us here in about a couple of minutes. Be talking about Miami in general. I cannot wait to be out there in September because, man, it's cruising and it is vacation time by the time we're up out there. So cannot wait for that. We're going to be talking about Dolphins. We're going to be talking so much in the Miami area. I'm excited about it. Well, boy, we did get, didn't have a whole lot of sports going on. So it was kind of quiet. It was crickets. But in the meantime, everybody was tuning in to Hard Knocks and so many other things also as well when it came to sports-related news. But Ashley joining us here in about a couple minutes. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about, because this has been an ongoing slander and it has been an ongoing conversation that I think needs to be kind of put to rest. And at the same time, there is clarity that needs to be put. So I know what everybody feels right now for two particular teams because both of them have star franchise quarterbacks. They both, now one did have a change in head coaching regime with Jim Harbaugh. And then yet the culture, they're winning games. One other seems to be continuously become a snake-bitten franchise. So Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, by the way, are not exactly like, there's not a gap between the two. They are practically identical in the similar ways with what has been going on with their franchise. An NFL executive, one of which, who I would honestly say is a 1%er, basically does not like Josh Allen. Like basically say he's overrated. He's not that kind of quarterback that's going to get you over the top, and then all the rest of it with his physical and his arm accuracy and his strength, all this stuff. So I'm kind of like, come on, guy. We're really going to start stirring the pot with this whole thing right now. Have you seen Josh Allen in the last few years, even when Brian Daboll left? And I know not all of this is all on Josh Allen. We know that there were changes in offensive coordinators. We know that, Ken Dorsey was really not the answer. They fired him. And then all of a sudden, in comes Joe Brady. And things start to now become better for Buffalo. Now, we can say the seat is sizzling for Sean McDermott because he has to get this right. So we know with what Buffalo has been through right now this offseason, everybody's all like, well, Josh Allen's got no weapons. He's barely got a defense. His offensive line's going to be, exposed at this point. Okay, but here's the thing. All right, you all bash on Josh Allen because the fact that Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, both of his reliable targets, are no longer in Buffalo. So now he has to deal with Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, who I am very highly expecting him to have a very good season in fantasy football for anybody that plays. I think that, the dual tight end set's going to be very exciting to watch. But then you also have Curtis Samuel. You have a veteran. So, but here's what's interesting that I think the executive did not end up spotting. A few episodes ago, I mentioned about Josh Allen and I mentioned about the state of the Buffalo Bills when Stephon Diggs got traded to the Houston Texans. Okay. When Diggs was on this roster, the Bills were making the playoffs 84%. Now, without Stephon Diggs, you know what the percentage is now? It only took a 10% dip, 74%. What is that telling you? That's telling you that you are not the same team without Josh Allen. Forget about the Stephon Diggs stuff. Josh goes down with a significant injury. You're going to tell me that Mitch Trubisky, a guy that Chicago apparently traded all those picks to go and get him as the number 2 pick, like you think he's going to end up leading the reign? What do defensive coaches tend to do when their star quarterback is hurt? They tend to get defensive. Remember what happened with Brandon Staley when Justin Herbert got hurt? They were not the same group, and all the players gave up on Staley. You don't think that this is going to be a similar situation if this happens with Sean McDermott? He has to get this right. Now, luckily, there's a little bit of a star that's kind of shining, and his name is Brandon Ayuk that now is on the trade block. But I don't know if Buffalo really has enough. They have enough capital to really make a trade because he's ultimately going to want an extension. I think the contract that's really screwing Buffalo more than anything is the Von Miller contract. I felt like he got overpaid. I felt like there's a part of it. They're kind of trapped in this thing, so you kind of have to pay him. But stop with this Josh Allen slander. By the way, you want to know how Lamar Jackson won MVP? Because I have been on lives. You can even ask everybody that was been up on TikTok. It's been absolutely the dumpsters have been on fire, and it's hard to really kind of douse it out. But everybody is all defending Lamar Jackson getting the MVP. I think I can make a little bit of an argument saying I think Josh Allen, if you watched him in the second half of football, he arguably was putting up MVP numbers. Part of that was change in offensive coaching. You had to get Joe Brady in here, kick Ken Dorsey out, and then this is where you were fixing the mistakes. But here's the thing. Quarterbacks are bound to go through mistakes. They're bound to make, plays that are kind of dumb, and then they kind of get interceptions. But we're not going to very much condemn them, even though that we hold them to a high standard, which is why I'm interested in this conversation coming up here in a couple seconds. But Josh Allen, you want to sell all your stock on this guy? I'll take all of them from you. I'm a gambling guy. I'm from Vegas, okay? I live in Denver. I'm a gambling man. You want to sell all your chips? Go all, you want to give them all away? I'll take them. Because Josh Allen, at the end of the day, is Buffalo's franchise. He's a guy that physically is unbelievable, is a guy that also is very determined. And I know everybody's argument, well, he cannot beat Patrick Mahomes. That's fine. That is the easiest argument anybody can make. But don't condemn the guy because he's trying. Okay? I don't know what Keon Coleman's going to look like. I hope he succeeds. And then Khalil Shakir, the kid's fast. I love watching him as a slot receiver. So this idea that Buffalo's basically dead in the water and it's the Jets, it's the Dolphins, division to take. It's not that easy. Okay? You could ask many of the fans, many executives that I've spoken to in the past. It's not that easy. When you have a team that has had a track record of winning their divisions and they play not just from the months of, September all the way to maybe potentially the beginning of November, but that point all the way to January is harder football than you think. It gets colder. It's much more gridiron. And these identities get shown out all the way through because we have 5 to 6 weeks to figure out what this team is. And then come post the trade deadline, we know what they are. So go ahead, sell all your stock. I'll buy them from you because I'm not giving up on Josh Allen, and I do not think Josh Allen's overrated. I do not think Justin Herbert is overrated. I think both of them are much underrated much underrated type quarterbacks. But the difference of it is you've got one that's dealing with a defensive coach that you better hope rebounds after this past season, and you have another one that has a snake-bitten franchise. I hope Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz wipes out the whole quote-unquote chargering mentality that they've been doing now for the last few years, and I think they will. He brings juice, he brings attitude. All that Michigan stuff is all coming into the building, and it's seeming like it's really getting stronger, and it's seeming to work. So now we just have to see it for about 5 weeks, don't we? Now we have to see what happens with Buffalo moving forward from here. All right, so they call her the sports babe in 305 in the Miami area. And for those of you who live in Florida, look, I've been to Jacksonville before. I couldn't understand how people could deal with the humidity. My skin was sticky. I couldn't do it. But, in the end, it's the perfect retirement destination. You can ask anybody that's, sitting on stacks. They're right there up on the beach. It's beach weather every single day. So joining us to be talking about the Miami Dolphins to kind of build some clarity, here comes Ashley here up onto the show. I just have to say before we begin, because, I've been to Florida once in my lifetime, and that was because I was there for a previous cruise coming out of Jacksonville. Now I'm on the other side, and I'm going to be porting out of Miami, so I'm curious how this is. But I want to start with, first off, man, I'm happy for the Florida Panthers because ultimately the Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, the state of Florida, hockey's been so good for them. They have gotten the best players there, and they've been playing with serious grit, and I'm glad. The fact it had to go all the way to Game 7. So when you think of the Panthers and you think of just the state of Florida itself, the sports culture has to be strong at this point because I got the Lightning winning. I've got Florida now as Stanley Cup champions. I'm hoping the Marlins actually play better because I hadn't seen that probably since Hanley's been there. And then at the same time, Miami with Tua and with Mike McDaniel, these guys are firing on all cylinders. So what's kind of been the sports culture like in the state of Florida being there and covering this team?
Definitely. It has been dynamic. Since the Heat made, the NBA Finals last year, double runs for the Florida Panthers, the Marlins, not so much. And then obviously a lot of movement with the Dolphins and making the playoffs last year. It's been a lot of fun. So hockey, as you mentioned, was not a big thing down here, but everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid now, and it is definitely on the map. And we're excited for the future of Florida Panthers hockey. We got one, and we're already hungry for the second one.
Yeah, when you think about an organization like the Florida Panthers, they've had to go through a lot of hurdles in the last few years. They've been here, but they haven't quite known the feeling of what it's like to hoist Sir Stanley. As a Vegas fan and being as, born and bred my entire life, I thought it was the most amazing feeling when they won it last year. And so now Florida gets a chance to do it. So, Tampa's won too. But now when you go there around the Miami area and all over, now they know what it's like to win it. So, but again, 3 Stanley Cups in about the span of 5 years is incredible. And
in Florida. And when was the last time a Canadian team won? It's been years. And,
30 years.
Canada's known for being hockey oriented. So for it to actually come as south as possible, and like you said, 3 and 5 years is amazing. And people have said it best, like once you get the first one, you're so hungry for the second one. So even though we're still on a high, I know Matthew Tkachuk brought the Stanley Cup up to his hometown, like we already want the second one. So it's very much, we're still on the high of it, and it's very much alive down here.
I'll tell you, it's a grit and a grind. It's not that easy. A lot of players and a lot of teams have expressed how hard it is to end up winning Sir Stanley, and again, it's a amazing experience. And I hope the best, at least for the Florida Panthers, because I love what they put together. I felt like Paul Maurice was arguably one of the best coaching hires amongst a couple of them that have been hired that offseason. So, and I think he's very much have built a culture, what he tried to do in Winnipeg. So I'm excited for them.
It's really exciting. But the fact that I went to a Game 7 really did not help the cause. We kind of were like, all right, maybe a sweep, give him one in Edmonton. But the fact that it got drawn out to a 7 was pretty stressful. So regardless of it was in 4, 5, 6, or 7, we're still very much happy that it happened.
So I do want to dig into it, and I want to dive in, no pun intended, when it comes to the Dolphins, because I think, to your opinion, this is Tua's contract year. Because, I mean, when I watch Jared Goff and I watch Trevor Lawrence get their contract extensions, I'm kind of thinking, what is Dak and Tua's market at this point? Because I felt like now it has got to be within the 50 million range, which is hard for me. And out of respect for Tua, I do feel like that now that he's paired with Mike McDaniel, he very much has helped him with his offensive skill set and his capabilities, because that was something that was a big struggle with Brian Flores. Flores didn't even want him at that draft. But now to have it, he's fixed it. He's added him explosive yet speedy weapons because they love speed. And it really has worked for Miami. So when you think about breaking down Tua and what he's been able to do in the regular season and to come into a position where he's in the postseason. Now, my hope is, I know it was very cold weather, and usually I've always used this kind of term phrase out of respect for Miami. I felt like Miami was the seasonal organization because it's hot beach season. You know, you're that hot girlfriend that you're just like, you're spending 6 months in the summer for, enjoying the summer fling. And then by the time you're coming back into my area in Denver where it snows and all the rest of it, she's like, go kick rocks for 4 months. So when you think about that with Tua, this is the contract year. This is where he really has to prove it this year, especially given Josh Allen in his division. And hopefully, I mean, there's too much noise with the Jets. They got to make something happen this year, right?
Yeah, no, you make a very good point. And the whole Trevor Lawrence thing was kind of like an eyebrow raising, because it's like, wow, he did get paid. And I know we all know that Tua was looking at that. Now, plus and minuses. Tua had a really healthy year last year. He played all the games and everything. And even though our season ended in Kansas City last year, he still played every game as opposed to the year before. And obviously going into college, he's always fought injuries. So he does have a case there where, okay, he can be healthy. And like you said, weapons. Coach Mike McDaniel has built everything around him. You have amazing running backs. Mostert and Achane, amazing. You have Tyreek Hill. Like, you have Waddle, who's so young, so healthy. OBJ. You have all these weapons. And Teron Armstead, even though he's older, he's protecting, his left side. And it's like, the grass is paved, the gravel is paved. Now it's time to really make it. So obviously we're waiting to hear that contract that he wants. We're still in the limbo of it, but he's going to get it. Is he going to get the contract that he wants per se? We don't know, but it's going to be a very generous contract. And the Trevor Lawrence situation did help his cause a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's helping both him and with Dak to really kind of, negotiate in a lot of those arguments, because when you've got the right agents, I mean, hell, I wish I had Kirk Cousins as agent, because he seems to be getting guaranteed money all the way around. I'd be a rich man and I'd be living on the fat of the land by then. But
no, definitely. And I mean, we took some losses this season. Obviously, from Vegas, you guys took Wilkins from us, and that was really like a stab in our heart. Andrew Van Ginkel. So there were holes that we needed to fill. But as far as our offense, like you said, Tua has all the weapons, and I do, and a lot of people do think we're AFC contenders. Don't sleep on the Bills. The Jets, obviously no one's really worried about the Patriots, but again, anything could happen in that AFC. It's one of the really questionable divisions, and it's going to be a big year to really figure it out. I don't think the Bills are going to dominate that. I really don't think they're what they used to be, but we're not sleeping on them either.
Yeah, I think safe to say in the AFC East, because it is very intriguing to me, because I do think there are going to be teams that are going to be tested. There's going to be quarterbacks and defenses tested. So interestingly enough, but I'm glad you brought up the defensive point, because this was my next point here. So, Andrew Van Ginkel, Christian Wilkins, multiple defensive players, all gone, but yet they've upgraded and they ended up getting Chop Robinson. They ended up getting a couple of other really good players and adding a former Bill Jordan Poyer into the secondary.
Who's from down here. So that's exciting as well. Also, we're hoping for a really healthy year from Jalen Phillips. Obviously, he went out last year when we played the Jets up at MetLife. And then Bradley Chubb is so great as well. So we have these great weapons on the defense, and we just have to, really, really stop offenses from scoring. And if we can, as long as put points, obviously, as you know, put points on the board, stop the other team, we have something going. But we do play some really good teams this year. Obviously, the Raiders come, we go out to Seattle, we go out to Texans. So there are some matchups that we're not really used to playing, obviously above our AFC East matchups that are going to be really putting us on the grid. We play in Green Bay the day after Thanksgiving, or the day before Thanksgiving, I apologize. So it's going to be interesting to see not only how we match up to our usual arch enemies, but to see, CJ Stroud and other talent out there as well.
It is interesting because out goes Vic Fangio, in comes Anthony Weaver. Now, many sources of mine have basically said that Anthony Weaver, players seem to be buying into at least his defensive schematic. How do you kind of break down Anthony Weaver? And is there a part of his game plan that he sets for the defense, knowing that Jalen Phillips, he's on the injury list right now, slowly kind of building back up from the injury he suffered last season? But a lot of these pieces he has, do you kind of see something in his schematic that you believe, oh, this defense is going to be entirely different than what we saw last season with Vic Fangio?
So as you took the words out of my mouth, so I was going to say Vic Fangio. So when Vic Fangio came here from Philly, we were like, okay, this is great. He's like a wizard. Everything's going to be great. And obviously that was just disastrous. And it was kind of like broken promises, and it just did not work out. So with Anthony Davis, we do have high hopes. Of the players love him down here. He has great relationships. He's cool, calm, collective, like a cucumber. And is he going to come and do a whole 180? I don't know. I mean, as long as he can, figure out really how to be healthy. We dealt with that was one of our excuses. And I hate to use the word excuses, but we had so many injuries going into that Kansas City playoff game. And a lot of it, we played against Patrick Mahomes in negative 27-degree weather, but a lot of the problems happened because of defense. So is he going to come and totally give us a new defense? That would be ideal. But Rome wasn't built in a day, so we're excited to see what he can do as long as the guys stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for this defense, and, I do have positive hopes. I'm interested to see, and your thoughts up on the Chop Robinson pick, because I do feel like that him coming in, I thought he was going to go to the other side. I thought he was going to go to Tampa, because you lose Shaq Barrett and you lose Devin White. You're going to need to upgrade at least a pass rusher that could make the defense viable, go younger, go stronger, and faster. So evaluating Chop Robinson, what are the things you've taken away that you've liked seeing from his games and what he's produced at Penn State?
So it's interesting. So I went to the Dolphins draft party. Every year they have a different draft party like all the other teams. It was down here at Bayside, which is right, not too far. And it was like 400 or 500 Dolphin fans, and it was live. And, the picks were going and going and going. And there's a few guys we wanted. We're like, oh, crap, this and that. The guy that the Jets took, we were looking at him. And then they said Chop Robinson. And it was kind of one of those moments where we all looked at each other, and they're like, Penn State. And one of our former Dolphins, OJ McDuffie, went to Penn State. So that was like a big moment for him and stuff. Now, personally, I thought that we were going to go for a tight end. There's been a hole ever since Gesicki left and went to New England. So Chop wasn't on top of my radar. I was kind of hoping to really help more Tua with the offense, even though McDaniel doesn't really have an offense that's built around tight ends. It's kind of like Gesicki wasn't really a good fit down here, because he's more like wide receivers and running backs, kind of like passer, So with Chop, it was kind of like, okay, kind of trust in the process. OJ McDuffie called him, and haven't heard much from him still. Obviously training camp starts next week, but supposedly it's been a great transition down for him down here, and we're excited to see what he brings. We've had a history of up and down draft picks. I can go down the list. Minka Fitzpatrick, but then we had a great year with the Jalen Waddle and Jalen Phillips. So it's been an interesting past few years with Dolphin draft picks. So we're hoping Chop is like, bring us back into the good juju of draft picks.
Yeah, that is definitely the hope for sure. And, it's funny because when you add a complimentary piece like this, and there are going to be teams, I've evaluated teams that even if you've got one single pass rusher, if that pass rush goes down, who do you really have that's going to step in and be that, that Mike linebacker, or the guy that's going to basically come in and build pressure? Because you're not going to always throw in Mikes all the time and, to fill in that role. So I think Chop may end up fitting in pretty nicely. I think as soon as Jalen Phillips is 110% healthy, I think this kind of helps to really balance the load and really kind of give them at least equal amount of pressure than what we're seeing in a lot of other teams in the NFL this year. So Jordan Poyer, this was interesting because I'm sure you've seen the video in the comments. So when Jordan Poyer, he had attended a charity softball game, and being respectful, and especially when he spent all of his time in Buffalo before going and taking, the Miami job. But, however, little bit of not a dig, but he's kind of hinting a little bit there when, comparing Tua with Josh Allen. Now, I know he's trying to say the right things for media purposes and all of the rest of it, but Jordan Poyer comes in, and knowing the experience that he has in Buffalo and with Josh Allen, does that kind of give the Dolphins a little bit of a slight edge, knowing you've got familiarity with your division rival, kind of what Josh Allen likes and what he chooses to pick? Is there kind of something that really gives the Dolphins and especially the secondary a bit of an edge?
Well, so with Jordan Poyer specifically, we've had a lot of movement through the AFC East in general. Obviously, Gesicki went to New England a few years ago. Jordan Phillips obviously went to the Bills, and he's been there for a long time. So this is nothing really new. A lot of movement within, say, keep it in the family, right? Mm-hmm. So with Poyer is very interesting because there's two players. I could tell you another one who want to be down here. Lamar Jackson wants to be down here as well. He's born and raised down here, and it's a good fit for him as well. And Poyer, as soon as, it was all official, him and his wife, you could tell they glowed. And obviously they didn't want to leave a salty taste up in Buffalo, but it's a good fit. Now coming down here, is it going to be like a spy game, kind of like, hey, Josh Allen, this and that? Of course. I think anytime you make a trade, I don't think it's like loyalties to where you're coming from. So I'm sure he's going to come with, some like, inside, hey, this and that, but is it going to make or break? I think Tua will still be Tua, and I think Josh Allen will still be Josh Allen. I think they're two different complete players, but it's a different culture down here, and obviously Bills have their own culture, and if you can bring some of that Bills winning culture down here, we'll take it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've taken whatever I can get at the end of the day because, I mean, if I'm facing that division rival twice a year, every year, and I've got familiarity, that really does kind of help with the edge. So I feel like this is a 3-team race in this division because I think the Patriots, the way I've summarized it is they're in full rebuild mode. We can clearly see it, but at least I'm happy that they addressed wide receiver, they addressed quarterback, and at least one, because they have at least somewhat of a viable left tackle that can make Drake May succeed. So, but then the question is Gerard Mayo really the head coach that really can change up this culture than what we've left behind 20 years with Bill Belichick? We all know that hell that everybody suffered through, or could he potentially be a part of Bill Belichick's shadow? We don't know yet. But I think in this division, there's a 3-team race. The Jets, obviously, they hope that Aaron Rodgers can stay on the field for more than 5 minutes. And at the same time, there's been very much a lot of noise and a lot of positive things as far as Olu Fashanu, their pick on the offensive line. He's been working very, very well. So there's a little bit of that heating up. Josh Allen's keeping the positivity. So when you think of the competition in this division, knowing it's going to be potentially a 3-team race, I mean, this is kind of the thing that going into it, and even when you're going into a conference that is stacked and there's a lot of high expectations everywhere, this is kind of the point that the Dolphins have to basically take it one game at a time. And at the same time, they got to worry about their division rivals more than anything else because it's all about making it to the playoffs, which is the mission. But then at the same time, it'd be nice to have the division because there's a little bit of a seeding involved. Your thoughts on that?
Everything you said is totally Accurate. We are eyeing up obviously on the Jets and obviously on the Bills, but you can't go into New England expecting a win automatically because they easily can pull one out of their left pocket. And so, yes, obviously Bills and Jets are big, but you never sleep on the Patriots, even though Bill Belichick's preoccupied with his, new life, and that's all that era is gone. You're still at the end of the day, you still go into every game 100%. We want to win the division. We wanted it last year. Every year we go into this, and every year we're more hungry. Now, I think, maybe I'm biased, I think we're the best team on paper. Do we have the best quarterback? Hard to say. You compare Tua to Josh Allen, but I think on paper, the Dolphins are the best team in the AFC East. For sure. Aaron Rodgers, no one really expected him to go out like that week one. And was that the complete reason for the Jets kind of collapse? I mean, it's hard to say. There were still other reasons, but would Aaron Rodgers really have taken them that far? But our goal this year is to obviously win the AFC East, to be comfortable into that. Our schedule this year it's favorable, right? We're not going into Buffalo late in December anymore. We have a game in MetLife January, so that's obviously can mean something big. Or I'm sorry, late in December we go to MetLife. But we go to Orchard Park early this year. So every game's going to matter. Every team, yes, obviously what we do in the AFC, but obviously what happens outside. And it's going to be close. I don't think there's going to be a team in the AFC that's going to be a landslide that's just going to run away with it. It's going to be every game, every matter, every extra point. And if they keep that mentality and we stay healthy, I think we really, really have a shot of winning the AFCs this year.
Now, I know this is kind of a hardest question and probably the last one, and pretty intriguing myself, because on my show, the thing that I've said about Tua is that I do hope Tua succeeds, because the fact of suffering that many concussions and being small and being somebody that I think, even as a left-handed quarterback, it's very rare in this league, because to have a successful quarterback, I mean, we've seen Boomer Esiason, we've seen, Ken Stabler. We've seen so many other left-handed quarterbacks who have succeeded, but it's a very big rarity. So my point with this was, I felt like if Tua doesn't get his contract, and let's say the performance with Tua, and not to speak negatively in any way, but if Tua does not exceed the expectation Miami's hoping for, does this fuel for Miami next year? Because we've only got potentially 3 to 4 quarterbacks coming out of college next season. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there a point that I think that's where Miami could potentially draw the line with Tua, depending on what the production level will be this upcoming season?
I think you're absolutely right. I think this is the make or break year. I think that, obviously last year he played all his games. Year before, there was a lot of his finger, his back, concussions. So this is the make or break. Now, let's play worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, he does not have a good year next year and they start looking elsewhere. Do they start looking at a quarterback, or do they kind of start digging and seeing what else is in the league? I personally thought that they, as a backup quarterback option, that we were going to maybe look at like a Ryan Tannehill for a year or so, or even like a Russell Wilson, to just have that backup option, never as a starter, obviously going into the season, but as a solid backup, and even to kind of coach too. Not that those guys have had amazing seasons, but they know the game and they've been in the league for a while. So a lot of it's riding on this season. A lot. Obviously, we want him to have an amazing season, be our franchise quarterback, but I think we also have to go into it being realistic, thinking how many more seasons do we just be mediocre or not win a playoff game? It's been 24 years. So if in a perfect world, he has an amazing year, make the playoffs, have a nice playoff race, end up in New Orleans this year or next season. But if it doesn't, I think some really tough decisions will have to be made.
See, that's content worthy itself, because, whenever I talked about this subject, I got bashed. I got so much, pushback, and I was like, whoa, time out. Hold on a second. I'm not saying Tua's terrible. I'm saying, God forbid, another injury or, an insufficient season. You kind of got to draw the line. Many teams have done this before, because we know at the end of the day, it's a business and they want to be successful because there are tasks ahead of them. And of course, the Super Bowl is obviously everybody's agenda, but to getting there and to being successful is one of those ones you kind of have to cut certain ties, and you got to make sacrifices, but it's for the good and for the sake of the organization
I
itself.
can tell you that the consensus is that we all want him to be the franchise quarterback. We don't want this to be a few years Chad Henne, a few years Ryan Tannehill. Like, we want this to be it, but we have to also take spades for what they are and, hope for the best. And, all the weapons are there. And, they can't be, our offensive tackles are weak. Oh, he got hit. Like, this is the best product we can produce. And, it's either make it happen or it's going to be tough.
And absolutely love it. Ashley, appreciate you taking the time and joining up here up onto the show. Where can people find you? Because I know a lot of people that are around up in Florida and Miami, whenever you're out there in Hard Rock Stadium, out there cheering on for the Fins and just being there, being the extra juice for the fan base. But where can people find you to cover more on, Miami sports and more?
Definitely. I mean, I'm on social media, 305 Sports Babe. I also are CEO of 305 Sports Travel. It's a Dolphins and all Miami sports travel agency where we go to Dolphin away games. We're going to Indy this year. We're going to Houston. So if you guys want to join along, we have big groups going out there. But I also have I have my own show, the SoFlo Sports Show. Really vamps up during football season. But 305 Sports Babe is where you can find me on social media.
Yeah, I cannot wait. And my wife and I, we're going to be touching down September, probably by the start of it, out in Miami. We're leaving out for Bahamas. We're going through Princess Cays. We're going through a lot of those places. But we are at least staying a day there, coming in from the flight. Any kind of, restaurant recommendations? Because I know we ain't going to be touching down and just going right to bed, in the hotel. We might want to grab some food or something like that. Any recommendation in Miami?
Of course, no. My backyard is the cruise port, so I see the boats are right there. Versailles is definitely the place to go. Obviously, Miami is a little Cuba, but truly and sincerely, people say stay away from like the name. You want to go to Versailles for like the best Cuban, especially the best breakfast. But pastelitos, which are like Cuban, like appetizers, that's where you want to go for sure. Versailles. On 8th Street. It's at Little Havana. It's like our little Cuba area. It's only maybe like 10 minutes from the cruise port. So for sure. And if you're coming in September, I'm a very big Marlins fan. So I'm going to tell you, if the Marlins are home, at least try to get to Lone Depot Park. It's not some of the people's favorite park, but it's a really, really cool place. And if anything, come and see our bobblehead museum in Redfield.
All right. Yeah, definitely take those recommendations for sure. Appreciate you, Ashley. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of the week. And we will see what this upcoming season will look like for the Miami Dolphins and for Tua. Appreciate you coming on by.
Thanks for having me. Take care. Good night.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is why I've said I am America's honesty mind. I'm looking for clarity. I am looking for straight in the middle, unbiased, balanced, silver lining. And she said it best. I mean, this is the year for Tua to really exceed expectations. So I'm curious what the season will look like for the Miami Dolphins. I hope for the best of successes. And I think because what we're coming into, it'll be interesting nonetheless. But really interested to see how the production will be. Hopefully, Anthony Weaver on defense really can manage this group. I think it's a very strong secondary group. They've added pieces. They've added a veteran piece. But I also do think that if Chop Robinson, knowing how highly Penn State has been regarded, even when we watch Micah Parsons and multiple others, my hope is he could come in and he could plug away until Jalen Phillips really does come back fully healthy. Good stuff, man. Ashley had some great insights there. Can't wait to be up in Miami. She gave me some great recommendations. I love being a travel guy. Like, this is the traveling around really just kind of makes me happy, and you never know what life's embarking and what journey road you're going to take unless you go and you take it. All right. Well, we're going to get into a break from here, but for those of you that, I know it was kind of boring, at least a little bit, when we did not have, sports games going around, but that doesn't stop BetUS from giving you arguably the best expertises in sports betting, in all sports betting. Single, parlay leg bets, prop bets, because we know that the NFL prop bets have been heating up. Chase and I, when Chase comes back up onto the show, we've been doing our hold, fold. We will be getting to our NFC predictions since we did our AFCs as our prop bets here, brought to you by BetUS. Check them out for yourself. They've been doing this for over 30 years and also have the best casino entertainment games as well, all up on your computer device, ready for you to play and ready for you to potentially get on the edge of your game. Gambling problem, call the number on your screens and also call them in your respective states and get much needed attention and help and gamble responsibly. So I'm really excited about what the season's going to be. Cannot wait for it. But BetUS, they got me prepared. So cannot wait for it. Check out BetUS for yourself. When you get $50 down in your deposit, 200% bonuses, and 30 risk-free bets. Check out BetUS for yourself. And not to mention, too, enter in for the contest because they're giving away 2 free copies of College Football 25. All you got to do is go on to their social media, follow the steps, and see if you got a chance to win. Check out BetUS.com today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
Want to find your seat for the
Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action.
Well, I was really, curious of one thing because Hard Knocks has been so damn good with all of its content and more. And once again, more sources are circling around the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley. Boy, does this look like an absolute circus show that is probably going to go south. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. It it certainly has, it really has explained, and I've been saying this as well with what we have seen from the Giants in the last few years. The Giants, I don't even know what to make of it in business. I've been in New York 6 times in my life. And the thing that really, really gets me, how the Giants, how they basically could run business like this. And I've been saying it multiple times. Like, it's a big brand. You're in a big city in New York. I mean, I've been down south in Suffolk County, in New York City, around Manhattan. I've been all over the place. And it's a great vacation destination. I don't see myself living in that kind of atmosphere because I don't want to be dealing with Wall Street on, on an everyday basis. I don't want to end up dealing with, the standpoints. I'm not going to get into it very deeply, but at the same time, it's just like I don't know what you kind of have to make of it. So in Hard Knocks, they've been great. So they produced arguably the best content. Now, I think because after seeing some of this stuff that has been leaked out, which, why is it getting leaked out? Many people realize this is this is not good. It's making people really, really, really question. And again, there are people that basically are watching this show and they're watching the contents before them. So a conversation was made about Saquon Barkley between John Mara and Joe Shane, the owner and the GM. And what was basically being said is that Saquon testing the market, potentially John Mara, if you watch body language in businesses or in anywhere, it's not looking great, not looking good. John Mara had so much anxiety of the idea that Saquon Barkley would go to rival Philadelphia. He'd be losing sleep. Yeah, well, what's Joe Shane doing? Oh, he's smiling like this, hoping it would not be the case. But what is this? A Mickey Mouse circus? You're smiling while you got an owner right there who could potentially fire you right up on the spot. That that stuff's crash landing down. And by the way, Saquon was the huge piece of the puzzle of their offense. It was not all Daniel Jones. When Brian Daboll came in to New York, the hope is that he could turn this circus sideshow around. And it all basically came around with Saquon Barkley. It all came around with a lot of big-time players. But now that Saquon is out of the picture and the Giants couldn't do anything to basically help out their offense, this is where things get really, really heated. And so as of right now, I feel bad for Giant fans because watching that clip and just seeing it before my very eyes made me think of how in the hell are they possibly doing business with these people? And then at the same time, like, you lost a very valuable offensive piece to what should have been negotiated. And right now, I don't know what to make of with the Giants. I think the Giants are my 4th place team in the NFC East. And you're going to see it. Saquon's going to come in here like a bull rushing out the gate and is ready to just run over and demolish everybody that stands in their way in New York. Okay, you watch him in MetLife Stadium. Y'all are going to flip when he's in those Eagles colors because that's an uncomfortable situation there. I don't blame him. But Saquon made it clear. He wants help. He wants to feel appreciated. And at the same time, like, he wants support. So you pay Daniel Jones, a quarterback out of Duke, who in the last few years, okay, has not wowed me all that much. Yeah, we watch him in preseason, and yeah, it was basically they had to move on from a lot of pieces. Yeah, they had to move on from Eli Manning, which honestly, when Ben McAdoo and even when Pat Shurmur were coaches there, yeah, wasn't too good, was it? It did not quite roll over smoothly. So, I feel like right now with what the Giants are basically going through, and they then get a playmaker in they get a playmaker in Malik Neighbors, who I hope is successful. And it looks as though he will be a really good playmaker. But the question of it is, does he move the needle for this offense? That's going to be hard. That's going to be a lot. If you don't realize it by now, the Giants have a lot of stuff hanging over their head. And it's not going to be that easy to really manage and maintain. So they got a lot on their hands. And the Giants right now, this is a fourth place team. I'm watching John Mara with his body language and what the signal he's giving to Joe Shane. That ain't looking good. Not looking good. And so I hope the best. And I'm going to watch that game with the Giants and the Eagles in their first go around. I guarantee you, Saquon is going to want to bulldoze everybody in New York. I'm telling you. I just think after you watch that clip and Hard Knocks, and like I said, sometimes even in, story journalism, there are stories that get out for some reason because either somebody wanted that out or it makes us critically think. But in this case scenario, you're watching the Giants right now, and I think this doesn't seem to be looking apparent. It doesn't really seem to be looking very promising that the Giants would actually be a better team. I mean, yeah, you can have pass rushes. That's fine. You can add, and by the way, the clip on Brian Dable walking out of the room when the idea of Brian Burns getting acquired to the Giants to help Dexter Lawrence and helping out Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, again, he doesn't hate the guy, but the idea that you have an offensive coach in Brian Dable and you can't help him a lot on offense. I mean, Darren Waller retired, and I mean, look, I could give him a pass with the Kadarius Toney thing because a lot of that with Kadarius Toney is a lot of personal stuff. Like he's not available. Sometimes I do think he's got hands of stone. And even look, if you're seeing this with Kansas City, that just tells you it don't matter where he is. This ain't working. So, but in the end, offensive weapons, I mean, they finally get Malik Neighbors, which is one thing that they needed. One. Then where's the rest? So at this point now, what do you do from here? Oh, yeah, you're going to sign Devin Singletary. How available is he going to be? Run game's not going to be that strong. By the way, Evan Neal, I hope that he plays better because Andrew Thomas, he is a much better offensive tackle. But if Evan Neal ain't up on the same page, and then you look at that whole offensive line, hard for me to really kind of have hope and optimism with a team that I know basically lost their biggest juice in that room. So good luck. Good luck without Saquon. And I guarantee you when Saquon comes into town, he's going to remind you who really, really provided a lot of that juice on offense. Certainly was not all Daniel Jones. So just remember it. You got to remember where you put your money at. And so hopefully Joe Shane can understand this. But it's really making a lot of people around the league really kind of consider joining Hard Knocks because there is a lot of that's really kind of building around. That's why most people are kind of skeptical of like, there are people who agreed to be up onto the show, but then sometimes you just don't know who's pointing the camera and who can hear. I mean, that's what Hard Knocks is. Hard Knocks. You get into the hard stuff. So, it really is interesting to me. When I'm evaluating the NFL season, like I get pushback. I sometimes will get agreements, disagreements, whatever. That's what this show is all about. I don't like to I'm not seeking to be right, and I'm not seeking to have an entirety of of an audience basically praising and screaming and being like, "Yeah, Jake, yeah." I'm not always looking for that, but I'm looking for like-minded people who could basically see the two sides of each story. So this is the year where we are going to see a lot of clarities up on some teams. It really is. I mean, I just started it with, the Josh Allen and the overrated slander from an executive that basically put it out there. 1%er, probably. Spoke about this in the past, in the past episodes with the Justin Herbert thing. And people are very quick to just jump the gun. They are very quick to jump the gun saying that, well, you got gutted up on a lot of receiving, like a lot of wide receivers, your weapons. You got gutted on a bunch of other spots. You ain't going to be the same team. Okay. We may not be, but we know coaching ultimately always plays a role. That's why I think for the Chargers and the Bills, Chargers, I feel like, have a very good momentum swing. And people are going to see that for the first 4 weeks. You're going to see what Jim Harbaugh really does because, of course, he's got to dust off all that old stuff from off his shoulders from years past. He's got to dust all that off, and you will see this culture really take a massive turn. Now, do I think they're going to win like 13, 14 games? No, I'm realistic. I think this team has the capability of at least 10-7. If they're lucky enough, they'll get 11-6. But you will see the change in the culture, how bought in all the players are. Health is a very important concern for a lot of teams with the players, and production is a big thing. So all of this stuff only matters, and it accounts to a lot of this culture change. Now, for the Buffalo Bills, as I've said, it's all in Sean McDermott's. It's all in his hands now. You've lost 2 receivers. You drafted one. Khalil Shakir is an up-and-coming receiver. And then you also have a veteran receiver there and a dual tight end set between Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Josh Allen, we know, like I said, they dropped only 10% when Stephon Diggs left. So they're not all that bad. You know what they had to do? They had to get rid of a lot of old contracts that they know they needed to do. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, multiple others I can name. I know the hardest one was Mitch Morse. That was hard. But regardless of this whole thing, go ahead and sell your stock. I'll take it. I'll take it all. I even seen people that were out looking, what is his value in fantasy really going to account? His second half season was like, that's MVP caliber. And we know we gave it to Lamar because ultimately Lamar is a playmaker and he does account for 75% of Baltimore's victories. We're not going to take that away from him. But Josh Allen, from a quarterback perspective, throws the deep ball much more consistent and accurate. And at the same time, of those 2 quarterbacks, Lamar has never thrown for over 4,000 yards because he's always elevated by his feet. And now having Derrick Henry, that's going to be double whammy. And I think that will be a force not to be reckoned with. Okay. So, but for Josh Allen, this amount of slander is just absolutely outrageous. So it really is interesting to say, but I think Buffalo's going to be fine. 5 minutes to spare from here. So the conversation that was basically met is it's surrounded with Bill Belichick. So Belichick is going to potentially take a job in as a sports anchor, which, okay, but he wants to get back into coaching. And that is the goal. Now, again, we know Bill Belichick in the last few years since Tom left, and then, of course, Dante Scarnecchia, one of their top scouters, and multiple others, even Nick Caserio, multiple others in this organization have all left. Bill's draft perspectives have not been ideal, and we know that. We know that New England had been taking a different toll from there. Hell, he made a defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia be the offensive coordinator to Mac Jones, which I do not hold that over Mac Jones's head. But even though Jones definitely showed some spurts that this was not going to work out, this was eventually going to explode, and it did. And so now Gerard Mayo comes in. You draft Drake May, you get Jalen Polk, you get a couple of other really good pieces, and now you start to rebuild. And you rebuild in the best way possible. But the defense, I think, still can be very viable. But offensively, as long as I have a viable left tackle to protect Drake May's blind side, and also I have offensive weapons that could help to build this. Now, again, you have a franchise quarterback. That's more than anything. You could get weapons left and right. You could draft them. The draft is endless with wide receivers after what we've seen in the last 3 drafts. So you could get wide receivers whenever and wherever. But the point is with Belichick is not done coaching. He wants to prove it that he can coach, he can adapt. But when you get into business with Bill Belichick, do not give him so much power, especially when it comes to being in the draft room. You could be in the war room, but you should not be the one basically making those decisions as a GM. Okay, even as a scouter. Okay, that's what you paid professionals for. That's what you have outside eyes for. So I think Belichick is a hell of a coach. And I think a part of that is that he's trying to basically potentially stick it to New England and to Robert Kraft. No, everybody was all like, well, but they were so nice in the roast of Tom Brady. Come on. Like, of course they had to be. Why would you even hold a grudge? But in Belichick's eyes, of course, that's fire in the back of his head. He wants to stick it to New England. He wants to stick it to Kraft just to prove certain points. Now, there are evaluations that are there, and 3 of the 4 NFC East teams could be potential suitors. The Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. Washington already has Dan Quinn as their head coach, and they've already gotten so many defensive pieces, and I also do think they've got really good locker room guys to really help out with the build, especially with Jay Daniels. Now, the Cowboys would be interesting because the Cowboys now would be bringing back the Bill Parcells mentality into this room. And you know Jerry Jones doesn't really like guys like that. He wants yes men. That's why he hired Jason Garrett. That's why he hired Mike McCarthy. But you know McCarthy's seat is heating up because, yeah, you could be 12-5 each year and yet be first-round exits out of the playoffs. So, and especially with that disastrous performance you got. Now, again, I felt like they played opposites on defense. They did not play Micah Parsons right. I think part of that was their defensive coordinator when they put all that together. And at the same time, Mike McCarthy, there was just no answer after all of that. The Green Bay Packers absolutely demolished the Cowboys that quickly. And then Philadelphia, they've hit a mulligan with coordinators, Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. Your hope is that Nick Sirianni really learns from this and really starts to get better, because that back half of the stretch, only winning one game, you caught them at their worst time. They were not running the football efficiently. They were passing up too much, and it just did not seem like it was the right offense compared to when they had Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. This was not the same group. Sean Desai and Brian Johnson were clearly not the answers, and so they paid the price. Now they have a mulligan. But if this doesn't work out, many sources have been turning to that Bill fits the culture in Philadelphia, because he's hard-nosed and he's not anybody that takes crap. Okay, so that's an interesting fit. And then there's the Giants, because the Giants need a backbone. I mean, they haven't had it since Tom Coughlin left. Once that was over, they got exposed. So I feel like Belichick, I think he could still coach. Between him and Mike Vrabel, those are both coaches that could still coach. And Vrabel is eyeballing that Buffalo, or he's eyeballing at least a couple of other coaching vacancies that could be open. It's usually 7 to 8 jobs that do get opened up. Now, let's see exactly what happens from here in the season. But I think Belichick still could coach. But the question remains is, has he learned a thing or two since kind of taking a step back? Hopefully he has. I'm hoping that's the case. But I think he certainly has to a great extent. And hopefully that is the case. Whew. All right. Good stuff, guys. Appreciate you all for joining up on here. We got a lot done here. So that's going to conclude it here up on the show. Ashley, the 305 Sports Babe, shout out to her for joining us, talking Miami Dolphins football and being with us here on the show. We got a lot really covered on. I mean, I kind of summarized what the Giants really are. I don't think they're going to really be the same similar team, than what we've seen in the past. So it's going to be a lot of hefty work to go through. Show sponsored by BetUS. Go online today and start betting up with BetUS here today. $50 down, $200, 200% bonuses and 30 risk-free bets when you sign up at BetUS, where the game begins. And SeatGeek, do not miss your seat of your next event, wherever it may be. Next sporting event, next concert with your favorite artist, comedy shows, and more when you use SeatGeek, the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Promo code is SnakeSports for $20 off of your first purchase of your first ticket. So go online to SeatGeek.com and download it on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. Jake Silva signing out. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on the edition of the Snake Sports Talk Show. See you later, guys.